Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the Colonial Dungeon, this is the Court Martial Podcast! Introducing your host for this evening, he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he weighs in tonight at a number you don't need to know. He is the Colonial Loudmouth, Sean McCarty!
And welcome to another action-packed edition of the Court Martial Podcast. I am, as always, your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, and once again, we have so much to talk about this week. It is the third week out of 7 in our fantasy booking series, Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling and the National Wrestling League. So excited to bring this to you, and with me, as always, is the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, the man with the power, the man who's inhaling ashes as we speak because he's leaving a trail of fire behind him, your best friend, your one and only Skyler Greenberg. Welcome back to the show.
I'm not sure if I want to leave ashes everywhere because then it just gets all dirty, and that's a lot of cleanup.
Well, I mean, so long as you've got, like, some moisturizer so your skin doesn't get too dry. You know, like, you got to keep moisturized.
You know me so well.
Yeah, see? You just got to have that extra bottle of lotion for whatever you use it for. But moving right along, we're going to move right on past that joke. And we are going to just, what we're going to do today, Sky, as I just told you before the podcast started, is that we're going to start with the National Wrestling League, then we're going to move to Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling, and then that's your lot. But before we do that, because you have a vested interest, because you are coming back next week, tell them why you're coming back next week.
Because we have a pay-per-view that we're going to review.
Hooray!
But it's not just any pay-per-view, it's Summerslam.
It's Thunderdome. I mean SummerSlam. And it's gonna
WCW Thunderdome.
And it's gonna be something. And it's gonna be probably miserable. And it's not nauseating, I'm sure. But we will put ourselves through that for you, the fans of the Court Martial Podcast, you, the colonists out there who are excited to hear what we have to say, all of our hatred, all of our joys, and everything in between. We are going to be doing that next Friday. Skyler and I coming in, breaking everything down for you, for those of you who didn't watch, for those of you who did watch, and anyone else who just feels like listening to two guys ranting for a while. And on Saturday, don't forget to join me. I've decided, yes, I am going to actually do this. Join me for the live stream of TakeOver 30, which is going to, I'm going to do a live stream of the show, for better or worse. It's going to be something, and I'm going to be drinking, and it's going to be sloppy, just like the show, but that's the quality entertainment that you, the fans, deserve. So we are going to, a lot of things going on, whole lot of things going in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for both of us. And with that said, Sky, I'm going to pass the baton off to you as NWL launches its third month of programming. Take it away, sir.
Now, before I begin, you have the match cards in front of you.
I do.
I don't want you to fall behind. I don't want you to fall behind and miss out.
Nope, I've got it right here. I'm taking a look at it right here, right now.
All right, then we will begin with NWL Summer Showdown from Los Angeles, California. We're a West Coast promotion, and we're going to tour up and down the West Coast, even though the West Coast is currently on fire.
And it's funny because the graphics that you, the fans, are seeing now on the video are a wonderful orangish yellow to signify being on fire.
Yes, which is hopefully how the show will be, but not literally, because if it's literally, then we're going to be seeing a lot of lawsuits.
Only for pyro. You can only get fire for pyro. Everything else, just leave it to the side.
Right. Anyway, so before we begin, let's do a little review of the rankings, because that's very important.
Yes.
In the NWL.
Yes.
And very specifically for this show. So we have our NWL World Champion, Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
Number 1 ranked, Roman Reigns.
Yes, sir.
Number 2, Jon Moxley.
Yep.
Number 3, the international champion, Andrade Cien Almas. Number 4, Daniel Bryan.
Yes.
Number 5, AJ Styles.
Phenomenal.
Number 6, Seth Rollins, who used to be number 1 last pay-per-view, but now he's fallen to 6. Number 7, Adam Edge Copeland.
Yes.
Number 8, Kevin Owens.
Debuts last week. Debuts last week, immediately makes an impression.
I'll explain why in a little bit. Number 9, Keith Lee. Number 10, Nick Aldis.
All right.
So, we'll begin the show with a preliminary tag team match. We have the Lucha Express, Grand Metalik, and Kalisto versus the Golden Lovers, Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega. And this match in particular, it starts off pretty well. It's a 12-minute match. It's very quick, lots of high flying and spots. And I'm going to give you the end of this match. So we have Grand Metalik and Kenny Omega in the middle of the ring, and they're in a collar and elbow tie-up. And Kenny Omega kicks out Grand Metalik, and he's about to go for the one-winged angel finisher. But before he can do that, Kalisto has run all the way to the other side of the ring and grabs Kota Ibushi's feet, and Kota Ibushi falls and hits the ring apron with his head. The referee is distracted, telling Kalisto to go back to his corner. And as he does this, Grand Metalik gets out of Kenny Omega's setup for a one-wing angel and hits a low blow kick to Kenny Omega.
Oh, what a
Down
Shinsuke.
Grand Metalik goes up to the top rope, hits a frog splash. 1, 2, 3, Lucha Express win the match.
Wow. What heels?
Taking after from Andrade and Owens.
Well, clearly a negative influence on these three young, upstarting luchadors. How deplorable that they would use such underhanded tactics to take out a team like the Golden Lovers. With love right in the name, how could you hate on them so badly? Lucha Express, boo to you, sirs.
Well, we will see what happens next time.
Yes.
Because this is not over.
Not by a long shot.
Now, we will begin the show with an NWL title for rank match. Nick Aldis and the NWA World Championship is on the line against Keith Lee.
Oh, man.
So what happened last time, as you remember, is that Nick Aldis defeated Zack Ryder. And him and Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaac started beating up Zack Ryder. Keith Lee came out and chased the Yellow Bellies out of the arena right after them. And then what happened over the past few weeks of TV is that Kevin Owens defeated Zack Ryder for the number 10 rank. And then he defeated Nick Aldis, and then he defeated Keith Lee. And the reason why he beat them was because these guys kept interfering in each other's matches.
Fair.
So to settle the score, they're going one-on-one with the high stipulation that the NWA World Championship is on the line. And Nick Aldis did not approve this. This was NWA management because they want their champion to represent them. And the only way they feel that he can do that is if he puts his title on the line.
Wow. Bold.
So, Nick Aldis versus Keith Lee is a crackerjacker of a match. These guys are throwing big moves left and right.
Wait. Hold on. A crackerjacker? How do you jack cracks? Is my question to you, sir.
You take a cracker and you jack it.
Why? So the what? Cheese comes out and oozes out the middle of them? That's foul, sir. That is foul.
What, don't you know that? What, you don't like crackers with cheese?
I don't like the idea that it's called jacking crackers as if that is the verb and how they are made, because that makes me not want to eat a sandwich cracker with cheese in it ever again. Anyway.
Considering who your other co-host is, I don't think you have much to say, honestly.
No, you're right. Shout out to you, Josh, again, and all of the stuff you say, but still, that doesn't excuse you. You're not off the hook here.
I know I'm not.
Continue.
Speaking of which, tune in to the TAW podcast because they're also going to be reviewing SummerSlam.
Yes, in a different way. And with the return of Grammar Note Skyler, who's going to be writing notes for that podcast, which is going to be a whole different dynamic, different gimmick. It's like the Demon and regular Finn Balor, two different guys. Stay tuned for that. Continue.
Because I refuse to be on that show because he gave me 3 midgets and an 80-year-old crossdresser.
I think that's fair.
Honestly, I don't know why you're on his show because he gave you a crossdresser too.
Longevity. We've been doing it for years.
That's fair. Anyway, Heath Lee, it's the Big Bang catastrophe on Nick Aldis. But before he can get the pin, Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs go up to the ring apron, and they get up on the ring apron, and they're yelling at the officials. Heath Lee has had enough of these two guys, so he hits Thomas Latimer off of the ring apron. He grabs Royce Isaacs and brings him into the ring, and he grabs him. He picks him up. He hits a powerbomb on him. But all of this is a distraction for Nick Aldis to grab the NWA World Championship. And when Keith Lee turns around, Nick Aldis hits him with the title right in the face.
Oh!
DQ.
We're right in front of the ref, too. Deplorable.
Nick Aldis didn't care about winning the match. He just cared about keeping his title, and he is booking it because he knows that Keith Lee is an angry son of a beast.
Well, Keith Lee's going to have to get even. You know Keith Lee is going to want to get even for doing him dirty like that.
Oh, yes. He basically had the title stolen from him. And by the way, Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs are going to be appearing later because they have their own championship match later against the New Day.
Oh, snap.
And Big E.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. So we move on to our next match, a Fatal 4-Way #1 contendership match for the NWL Women's Championship. The one that wins here will be going on to the next show to face off against the champion. So we have Toni Storm, Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Naomi. These 4 women have a very good Fatal 4-Way matchup, although I'm not sure that you like multi-man matches, because it can get a little crazy.
They have their moments.
The winner of this matchup is Toni Storm, who hits the Storm Zero on Naomi, while Asuka and Bianca Belair are fighting it out inside of the ring. They take themselves out of the match, and Toni Storm takes advantage and hits Naomi with the what was her finisher called?
Toni Storms?
Storm Zero, my bad.
Yes.
Yeah, Storm Zero, my bad. He hits the Storm Zero powerbomb, 1, 2, 3. Toni Storm will be competing against the champion at the next pay-per-view.
All right. Well, Toni Storm has been booked very solidly. Won all 3 months that you've been playing in. I think Naomi is the perfect person to take the pin on this. Keeps Asuka and Belair still with some level of strength, other than Asuka losing to Charlotte, LOL. But...
Well, right. We'll get to Charlotte later.
But still, that's about as well as you could book those 4 women in a Fatal 4-Way match.
Yep, especially because it keeps Asuka and Belair safe because they took each other out.
Yes.
And maybe it starts a little program between them. You never know.
You'll have to stay tuned for next month.
So, we have our next matchup. We have Adam Edge Copeland versus Kevin Owens.
Oh, that's a dream match.
Ever since his arrival, Kevin Owens has been a force. He's climbed up and he's gotten 10. He got 9. Now he's 8 and he's going for number 7. As Adam Edge Copeland is making his entrance to the ring, Kevin Owens attacks Edge from behind. Straight punch to the back of the head. Picks him up, throws a few more punches to the head, grabs him and leads him to the steel steps and throws him into the steel steps, and then he super kicks Edge's head against the steel steps.
Oh, no.
At this point, officials, backstage people, and general manager Kurt Angle all come out to look up for Edge. Kurt Angle gets into the ring with Kevin Owens, and he has a microphone in his hand, and he's yelling at Kurt Angle. How can he yell at himself? Kurt Angle is yelling at Kevin Owens. You don't do that here. Get your ass out of here now. And as Kurt Angle is yelling at Kevin Owens to get out, Adam Edge Copeland rises up. He crawls into the ring. He goes over to his best friend, Kurt Angle, and he says, "Let me wrestle." And Kurt's looking at Edge with incredibility. What are you talking about? You've been injured. You can't compete tonight. Adam Edge Copeland doesn't care. He grabs the microphone from Kurt Angle and he says, "Give me Kevin Owens."
Wow.
So everyone clears out of the ring. It's Kevin Owens and Edge one-on-one. What do you think so far?
I don't blame Edge for feeling the way he feels. I mean, think about this. For the past several months, Edge has been trying to prove to so many people that he is still the Edge that we've come to know and love, and yet it's been loss after loss after loss, frustrating loss after frustrating loss, and now Kevin Owens is looking to cripple Edge. Edge has such a huge chip on his shoulder, there is no doubt that Edge has no choice in his mind but to get back in there and fight Kevin Owens.
But it's not the smartest thinking when you think about it. Because
Not in the state he's in.
Kevin Owens is right on edge. He is beating him down, beating him senseless. He's stomping a mud hole into him. He's working over his head and his arms, trying to damage Edge so that he can't do anything. This goes on for a good 12, 13 minutes. Finally, Edge makes a comeback against Kevin Owens. He starts hitting him with a clothesline and another clothesline. He grabs him, hits the executioner DDT. He goes over to the side of the ring. He gets into his iconic pose, begging for Kevin Owens to get up for the spear. Kevin Owens turns around, spear by Edge. 1, 2, kick out by Kevin Owens. And Edge is looking in disbelief. He hit the spear, but he didn't get the finish.
Still didn't get it done.
And Edge gets back up. He goes back to the ring corner, but there's not the same fire there. He's getting Kevin Owens up again, but there's a little bit of doubt in Edge's mind. And when he goes for the spear a second time, he doesn't go with a full commitment. Kevin Owens sidesteps this, and Edge runs right into the ring post on the other side of the ring. Kevin Owens wisely grabs Edge, pulls him to the center of the ring, hits the powerbomb. 1, 2, 3. Kevin Owens is now number 7.
Wow. Brutal. Edge is in a downward spiral, man. What is gonna happen with Edge? I'm sensing that Edge might turn some things around here, but it may take. He's got to change his game up somehow, because what he's doing ain't working.
What may have to happen is that Edge may have to retire, because he may just not have it anymore.
It may be. It may be. Who knows what's going through Edge's mind right now? This is got to be another devastating loss for Mr. Copeland.
It is. And now we will move on to our next segment. And I apologize to the people, but Seth Rollins is walking out with a microphone.
Is this going to be really passive Seth Rollins, who speaks in a very blah monotone, or is he going to actually give a halfway decent promo?
No, he's going to be monotone Christ.
Oh, Christ. Not him, but,
Seth Rollins comes out, and he has a couple of his followers with him in black robes. And Seth Rollins begins his promo by saying that failure is not accepted in the Black Hand. And failure is a sin. It's a sin of humanity. And that sin must be wiped out for the soul to be cleansed. I destroyed Austin Theory because his sin of failure was far too much. Buddy Murphy. And then Buddy Murphy unrobed himself in his ring gear. Buddy Murphy, as my first disciple, you have seen me and you have seen what I have done. You accept my vision for the Black Hand. Seth Rollins gives the microphone to Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy says he does, and he feels that the NWL will be led to a new age of glory with Seth Rollins' leadership. Seth Rollins thanks Buddy Murphy, and then he turns over to his other disciple, and he says, and what about you? Do you think that I could be the leader of the Black Hand and lead the NWL to new heights? The other member unrobes himself in his ring gear, and it is Wesley Blake, Buddy Murphy's old tag team partner.
Okay.
And Blake says, yes, I do, and I thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to be with my brother, Buddy Murphy. And I look forward to claiming gold, but more importantly, leading the world in a new age. Seth Rollins thanks Blake and he thanks Buddy, but he says that he himself is not free of sin, for he failed against Drew McIntyre. So he must absolve himself of his own sin. Seth Rollins takes off his shirt turns his back to Buddy Murphy and Blake. Both of those gentlemen grab kendo sticks. Seth Rollins says, begin. 10 strikes on to Seth Rollins' back.
Damn.
Seth Rollins then says, the pain will only make me stronger. And to prove that I am the virtuous man that I am, I will allow any man to step into this ring and grant them any request. So, this is an open forum to any wrestler in the back. And who comes out? Marco Stunt.
Oh, Christ. Oh, dear God.
And Marco Stunt.
I was with this segment up until now.
So Marco Stunt bows before Seth Rollins.
Oh, gee,
and
no.
And he says humbly, thank you, Seth, for giving me the opportunity. My request is that I wish to join the Black Hand because I see myself as a young Seth Rollins with so much potential, and I need your leadership. Seth Rollins looks at Marco Stunt and says, you're not quite membership worthy of the Black Hand. You're not quite man enough for me. I apologize, but I cannot grant your request. Marco Stunt, in anger, looks at Seth Rollins, and he says, in his best attempt to sound like a man, well, I bet I'm man enough to beat your ass right now. And then he slaps Seth Rollins. Doesn't even punch him, just a slap. Because Marco Stunt is a dick.
Yes.
With me so far?
That I agree with. Yeah. Yes.
Seth Rollins, in anger, kicks Marco Stunt in the chest, and Marco Stunt goes down, and Seth Rollins goes off the rope and hits a curb stomp. And then Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake grab Marco Stunt, and they throw him over the top rope to the side of the ring. Seth Rollins then goes out and says, does any other man have any other request? And then comes the Usos, Jimmy and Jay. And Jimmy and Jay Uso, they come out to the ring and say, hey, no, dog. Listen here, you've been boring these people for the last 5 minutes.
Continue.
And if your Black Hand is so good, then why don't they step up right now? As Jimmy Uso says, this Jay Uso takes the microphone and says, or maybe you guys are too scared because you're hiding behind Seth Rollins. Please, bring out your best, and then we'll whoop your ass, and then we'll prove that we are better than you. Step up, boy, to the Uso Penitentiary. Seth Rollins looks at Buddy, he looks at Blake, and he says, challenge accepted. Bring us a referee. So I know that was a long segment, but what did you think?
Don't try to talk street, Sky. That's my only. That's the only. I know you're trying to speak vicariously through the Usos, but don't try to talk street.
No, but that's attempt to talk with the Usos, okay?
I know, but
apologize.
I'm trying to take this as seriously as I can, and hearing you be like, "Yo, dog, word to your mother," like penitentiary homes. No. It's just.
I didn't say that.
I know. It was funny. It was funny. I know. I'm with this segment. This is gonna be a good match. Blake and Murphy against the Usos.
So the Black Hand versus the Usos is a solid tag team matchup, but the Usos are just too experienced and they're just too damn good. They kicked Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake's ass despite Seth Rollins being at ringside. The Usos set up for their finisher. They hit the double kicks on Blake, and then they go up to the top rope, hit the frog splash, 1, 2, 3. But What happens after the match is interesting. So the Usos are celebrating in the ring. They're holding each other's hands up. Seth Rollins from behind with a chair to Jimmy Uso. Jay Uso sees this. He tries to super kick Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins ducks. Jay Uso turns around and a chair to him. And Seth Rollins is just wailing on the Usos with chairs. And after 3 or 4 chair shots on each of them, Roman Reigns comes out. No music. Just charges the ring. And before Seth Rollins knows what hits him, a spear by Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And Roman Reigns picks up Seth Rollins' ass and throws him outside the ring. Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy grab Seth Rollins and they hightail it to the back while Roman Reigns checks on the Usos.
Wow.
What do you think?
Well, Blake and Murphy running like scalded dogs after the big dog. Roman Reigns coming in. My favorite part of that, no music on a run-in. I appreciate that a lot. And
I had to make that note, especially because of last week's match of the week.
Yeah. Apologies again for that. That was tough on both of us.
But it's important because it taught me what not to do with booking.
Yeah, there you go. Sometimes the matches may suck, but they are educational.
Yes, they are. But that's a thing, is that this is not over between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins.
Oh, definitely
Those two
not.
have way too much history, and they got way too much emotion.
And the family's still strong. Usos and Roman Reigns, Samoan dynasty, right there. Dog.
Right. So now we. Forget Samoan dynasty. I'm just gonna call them the big dogs.
The dog, yeah, a lot of dogs. Woof.
No, the big dogs. Anyway,
Woof.
so we have our next tag team matchup, an NWL Tag Team Championship match. Kofi Kingston and Big E versus Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs. This match is another solid tag team matchup. The finish for this match is that Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs are trying to set up for their finisher on Kofi Kingston, but before they do, Big E charges in and tackles down Thomas Latimer. Royce Isaacs tries to hit Big E, but Big E ducks, and Kofi Kingston gets enough time to recover and hits Trouble with Paradise. And then Kofi Kingston goes up to the top rope. Big E grabs Royce Isaacs, and he's preparing him in the launch position. And they hit the Midnight Rider finish. Kofi Kingston with the cover. 1, 2, 3.
That's your lot.
But before they can celebrate too much, in comes Nick Aldis with the NWA World Championship. And he blasts Kofi Kingston in the face. And then he blasts Big E in the face.
They need it. They deserve it. Nick Aldis beat their boy, or the boys. I can't speak. Nick Aldis and Royce had his boys beat, and now he's trying to beat down on the New Day. Despicable, baby.
Right, but it's not over yet because Keith Lee is charging out to the ring, and he's trying to charge Nick Aldis once again. But before he can get to the ring and get inside, Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs charge at him, and they're like gnats on a what do you call it? What do you call it?
That sticky tape?
No. Anyway, so Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs attack Keith Lee. Keith Lee is distracted. He takes out both of them, but before he can get to Nick Aldis comes out of the ring and he hits the big boot on Keith Lee. And now he leaves the New Day and Keith Lee lying around the ring like trash while he grabs his boys and they walk out.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. This is getting more and more complex by the hour.
Well, here's the thing. When I'm booking, I'm trying to build a universe where everything is interconnected, and it all comes back somehow, some way to a great payoff.
That's right. There's more to come. It's just there's now more people involved and more things in the mix.
Oh, yes. So now we're going to move on to the NWL Women's Championship match. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. Oh, wait. LOL. Charlotte wins.
Wow, what a surprise. The most intricately booked matches are these women's championship matches, I'm finding.
Yes, they are. Again, people, you've seen that match. It happened at WrestleMania 36.
This is fantasy booking, but we can't let everything be that much fantasy. We got to add at least a little reality into the equation here.
Besides, we have to save time because we have our main event of the evening, the survival game.
Now, you got to break this down for me because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, if you are on to this next part, I have the survival games rules match set up. So, the ring will be surrounded by a cage that is similar to Hell in the Cell.
Similar, but not the same.
Similar. There are 6 wrestlers that are in this match, with 2 starting in the ring, and another wrestler coming to the ring every 5 minutes. Now, unlike Elimination Chamber, which is another match that this is copying, the draw of the wrestler is not random. The draw of the wrestler depends on their rank, with the champion receiving the final draw, or the champion's advantage.
Fair.
Leaving the cage is considered forfeiting the match. So if you leave the cage in the middle of the match, you are forfeiting.
Okay.
Everything inside the cage is legal.
Okay.
All weapons, all moves.
So this is not
The
a.
only way-
So hold on, before you continue. Meaning, so this is not like the steel cage where it's like right on the edge of the apron. This has got a couple feet on the outside of the ring.
Right.
Okay.
It's basically the combination of Hell in a Cell and Elimination Chamber.
Okay. Got it. I'm with
That's
you.
the way I can put it to you. The only way to be eliminated, besides exiting the cage, is by pinfall or submission inside the ring.
Nice.
Rankings will be shuffled based on elimination order. So the order that you are eliminated is the number that you will be ending up at the end of this match. It could
Okay.
end up being that if you start the match number 1 ranked, you leave number 5.
That's huge. That could really that's a game changer right there.
Oh, yes. So, we will move on to the participants. Drew McIntyre is the NWL World Champion, and because he is the champion, he receives the champion's advantage. He will come out last. We have number 1, Roman Reigns, number 2, Jon Moxley, number 3, Andrade Cien Almas, and the 2 men who will be starting the match, Daniel Bryan, number 4, and AJ Styles, number 5.
Oh, that's beautiful. That match alone is worth price of admission.
And this match is a little bit intricate too, so we'll get into this one right now. So we have AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, and they are the number 5 and number 4 wrestlers respectively, and they will start this match. And as this match goes, both of these guys, they're taking it a little easy. They know they have a long way to hell if they want to win the championship.
Sure.
They have to wait until Drew McIntyre even comes out, and that's 20 minutes from now. Both of these guys are testing each other. They're not going in too aggressively. There's a lot of collar and elbow tie-ups, a lot of shoulder tackles, a lot of throwdowns, but they're not trying to do anything crazy yet.
Okay, now before you continue, I just got to ask, just so I know. So what that means is that you cannot make a pinfall or submission until all 6 participants are in the ring. Yes?
No.
Oh, no, you can make eliminations.
You can make eliminations before other wrestlers come out.
Okay, good to know.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, so this is not War Games rules. This is more resembling Elimination Chamber. Got it.
Right. Basically, it's like if Elimination Chamber was held inside Hell in a Cell.
Right. Okay, I'm with you now. Keep going.
It's the best way I can describe it. Now, both of these guys, they go up to the top rope for a very dangerous maneuver. Daniel Bryan has AJ Styles set up for a superplex. AJ tries, he begs, he tries to do everything he can to stop the superplex. But Daniel Bryan hits the superplex on AJ Styles. However, neither man can make a cover, and the timer has gone down. The next man entering the match is Andrade Cien Almas. And Daniel Bryan, before he even has a chance to get up, is pounded on by Andrade Cien Almas. These 2 men have a blood feud, and it has not stopped here. Andrade Cien Almas is not necessarily looking to stop Daniel Bryan by elimination. He's looking to injure him. He grabs him out to the outside of the ring, and he throws him against the steel cage several times. Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles have been staying away from the cage because they want to preserve themselves, but not Almas, because he's looking to hurt Daniel Bryan. He goes underneath the ring, and he finds a table, and he sets up the table. Now, he sets up the table so that it's leaning against one of the cage sides, and he puts Daniel Bryan on that table, intending to steer him through the table, through the cage. As Andrade Cien Almas goes out to the other side of the ring, he poses one last time, and he's going to go for the double knees into the table, into the cage on Daniel Bryan. As he's charging into Daniel Bryan shoots out for the table and hits the flying knee on Andrade Cien Almas. And now Daniel Bryan gets back up, so does Almas, but Almas is on his knees. Daniel Bryan with the yes kick. 1 yes kick, 2 yes kick, 3 yes kick, 4 yes kick. Before anything else can happen, AJ Styles has gotten up, and he's attacking Daniel Bryan from behind. And Andrade Cien Almas sees this, and AJ and Andrade work together to attack Daniel Bryan. But before they can do anything else, the timer and buzzer has gone down. The next man is coming in. It's Jon Moxley. And Moxley runs right to the ring. He runs to the other side, and he blindsides Andrade Cien Almas. And then he grabs Daniel Bryan, and he blindsides him too. AJ Styles is looking at Jon Moxley, and he's going on him like, whoa, please, don't do it, don't do it. Before he realizes what's going on, Jon Moxley grabs AJ Styles, and he lifts him up, and he runs him right into the table, right through the cage.
Oh, damn.
However, both of those men have not been eliminated. Meanwhile, Andrade Cien Almas is going back inside the ring. He's taking a lot of punishment from Daniel Bryan and Jon Moxley.
But the cage hasn't broken. Hold on, before you continue. The cage didn't break. It just bounced off the cage.
My bad. It bounced off the cage, but the cage has not been broken.
Okay. Just clarifying that. Got it.
Thank you. Daniel Bryan gets back into the ring, and he grabs a kendo stick, and he's looking at Andrade with anger, and continuously hits Andrade on the back, on the stomach with the kendo stick. And then he gets the label lock with the kendo stick across Andrade's face. Andrade can't bear the pain. After 30 seconds, he taps out. And Andrade Cien Almas has been eliminated. He is now number 5. And remember, he started this match number 3.
Oof.
So he drops 2 spots.
Have to drop.
Daniel Bryan is not done yet. He's seeing red. He continuously hits Andrade Cien Almas with the kendo stick, despite the fact that Andrade has been eliminated. AJ Styles now is on the top rope. He goes for the phenomenal forearm, and he hits Daniel Bryan. Cover. 1, 2, 3. Daniel Bryan has been eliminated.
Okay.
So what do you think of that little bit?
I think that Daniel Bryan and Andrade Cien Almas are in no way finished with each other because they're clearly at each other's throats. And I had, when you came up with that table spot, I had a thought for a fun little spot that they could do with that if there was different participants, or if somebody was like really arrogant and stuff like that, where they try to go through the table, but the second that he goes to go through the table, whoever was on the table rolls out of the way. He goes through the table, but then the table is actually positioned in front of the cage door, and then the cage door busts open. So not only does the guy go through the cage, he goes through the table and through the cage door and eliminates himself like a jackass. That didn't happen here.
Well, the reason why I didn't do that is I don't want to make my wrestlers look stupid.
Right, because this is not other companies that we could speak of. But I thought that...
Now, that would be a good idea, but the thing about the Survival Games match is if you leave the cage of your own voluntariness. You can't leave the cage involuntarily.
Okay, that's good to know. That is good to know.
But thank you for clarifying. If you leave the cage involuntarily, like someone opens the door and throws you out, you aren't eliminated.
Okay.
It's only if you choose to leave the cage on your own.
Okay. Good to know.
You want to know someone who's coming into the cage on his own?
That would be Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns, number 1. He goes right in, and AJ Styles is still trying to recover from taking out Daniel Bryan, and he's being chased around the ring by Roman Reigns. Roman finally catches him, and he peels him across the ring, and he grabs him from the other side of the ring, and he peels him on the other side too. But before he could do anything else, Jon Moxley walks into the ring. And these two brothers at arms, are now going to fight off with each other. And they start with the hockey punches. And then they start going across the ring. They start trying to hit each other with moves. And they're trying to eliminate each other. But before they can do much else, the timer has gone off. And the final man to enter this match has come. It's the NWL World Champion, Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre enters the ring, and he hits Jon Moxley, and then he throws him out of the ring. And then he grabs Roman Reigns, and this is a house battle between two big, strong guys. They go at it for several minutes until finally Drew McIntyre gets the advantage. But then, as he's setting up Roman Reigns for the Claymore kick, He goes for the charge, but Roman Reigns, finding the energy out of nowhere, hits the Superman punch on Drew McIntyre. But before anything else can happen, AJ Styles, the ever opportunist, hits the phenomenal forearm on Roman Reigns. But AJ thinks that this isn't going to be enough. He grabs Roman Reigns and he puts him in position for the Styles Clash. And you know the little moves that AJ Styles does where he spreads out his arms?
Yes.
Well, before he does the Styles Clash, he decides to get a little bit more arrogant, and he holds his hands, showing off the phenomenal one on his glove. But this gives Drew McIntyre enough time to recover and hit the Claymore kick on AJ Styles. Drew McIntyre covers AJ Styles. 1, 2, 3. AJ is eliminated.
Wow. Can I mention another spot that you just made me think of for this match?
Sure.
If you hadn't gone with the Drew McIntyre Claymore, what would really have been cool is when AJ did that whole thing with the show his gloves. Moxley came up and hit that paradigm shift while AJ hit Roman Reigns with the Styles Clash. So Reigns would still get hit, and AJ'd still get hit, and then AJ'd get eliminated. I like the Claymore too. I think it's just as good, and it gives Drew McIntyre he's still the dominant champion. But you made me think of that spot, and it would have been equally as awesome. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to upstage. Continue.
So then that would have been John Moxley DDTing AJ Styles on Roman Reigns' back, basically.
It would have been something.
That would be an interesting spot, although I don't think you would be able to time it correctly because you would have to do it almost instantly.
Yeah, it'd be a tough move. It would be tough to do.
I considered something like that, but I decided against it because it's too difficult to time.
That's fair.
I thought AJ Styles being a little bit too arrogant and costing him the match was perfect.
It was his undoing.
But anyways, we have 3 men left. Drew McIntyre gets back up. Before he can do anything else, John Moxley grabs Drew McIntyre and throws him outside the ring. And he's looking down on Roman Reigns, his former brother at arms. He grabs him and he hits a paradigm shift DDT. But he doesn't go for the cover immediately. He almost looks like he's regretting it. He goes over to the other side of the ring. He sits in the corner and he's looking at his hands, looking at himself, looking at Roman Reigns, wondering what he's done. Roman crawls over to John Moxley, and just close enough so that the camera can hear, Roman Reigns tells John Moxley, finish it. John Moxley grabs Roman Reigns, hits the paradigm shift DDT one more time, goes for the cover, 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
It's almost like John Moxley didn't want to do it, but he knew he had to. And Roman Reigns giving him that little bit of encouragement.
Yeah. Shows the respect between the two.
Yes, despite their broken relationship, they're still brothers. But there's something important that you need to know. Because Roman Reigns was eliminated, he's no longer number 1 ranked.
He's dropped.
It's now John Moxley. But John Moxley is not interested in the rankings. He's interested in the championship. Drew McIntyre comes up to the top of the ring apron. He goes inside the ring. And now it's just these 2 men going at it for 5 minutes, trying to pull out every move, every stop, reversals, counters, everything you can think of. John Moxley goes for the paradigm shift DDT one more time, and Drew McIntyre pushes him off. John Moxley is attempting to hit the rebound clothesline, but before he can do anything else, Drew McIntyre with the Claymore kick. 1, 2, 3. Drew McIntyre retains the NWL World Championship.
Wow. Another stark defense for one Big Daddy Drew.
There was a couple of instances where it looked hairy, but Drew McIntyre comes out on top.
Wow. Pulled it through.
I want to thank everyone for coming to this show, NWL Summer Showdown. The next show in September is the Hart Foundation Cup.
Ooh.
And me and my general manager, Kurt Angle, we've been coming up with a bracket that we want to show you, showing off the matchup. We have, in the first round, the Samoan Bloodline versus the Black Hand. We have the Latin Express, Andrade Cien Almas, Gran Metalik and Kalisto versus the Golden Lovers and Daniel Bryan.
Okay. I like that team.
On the other side of the bracket, we have the New Day and Heath versus Team NWA, Nick Aldis and Thomas Latimer and Royce Isaacs. And finally, we have the Joshua Special.
You should definitely keep it that name. You should definitely keep it that name.
We have the mini Clown Kings of Music. We have Hornswoggle, Dink the Clown, and we have, what was his name? Oh, King Queasy. And they will be taking on a mystery opponent. The Hart Foundation Cup is on the line. These 8 teams will go at it. The winning team will receive a World Championship and Tag Team Championship opportunity at the November show, NWL Wrestle Festival.
Wow. That's some high stakes.
Some high stakes. Only the best will survive. I'll see you guys next time.
Well done, sir.
Well, not next time. I'll see you guys now because we have to go on to the next show.
Yes, but that was a very eventful show. A lot going on there. A lot more than what's going on my show. But there's a reason for that.
Here's the thing, is that I had to do a lot of building with this show.
Yeah.
There was a lot of moving parts. And I'm happy with how it came out, but let me tell you, it is not easy to book shows.
No, it really isn't, and I totally concur with that because this week specifically was very hard on me because I've already got next week's mid-season spectacular Harvest Havoc. I've got that set, but getting from week 2 to week 4 was not as easy as I expected it would be, and that's why this is something of a as I like to call it, a maintenance show. Where there's nothing really happening on it, but it still leads everything into next week. And I'm going to actually reveal in a anticipation for hyping up next week's show. I'm going to talk about this week, and then I'm going to give you the card, not necessarily in the order it's going to be, but I'm going to give you the card for next week's, or next month's, technically, Harvest Havoc. But we'll get to that.
That sounds fair.
So, here we are, the next week of ACPW television. Welcome, everybody. Taz and Matt Stryker, blah, blah, blah. Our opening match is Robert Roode going one-on-one with Jinder Mahal. Of course, we saw Jinder debut last week in a losing effort against, as I'm pulling up my notes here, I have to make sure I've got this correct. He lost to, I believe, Titus O'Neil. Yes, he lost to Titus O'Neil. And we saw Robert Roode debut the week before, taking on and promptly beating Orange Cassidy. So these two, Jinder Mahal, who has lost his first match, kind of lost a little bit of sting going into his debut, is facing on Robert Roode, who won his first match. This goes back and forth. This gets 9 minutes. And it's back and forth. Robert Roode gets a nice rally start. Jinder Mahal has to cheat in order to get himself take the advantage. Robert Roode makes a comeback, and the finish of this match, nothing too fancy. Robert Roode wins with a spine buster. Big old spine buster. That's your lot. Real simple match. Enough to get the crowd going, get them hot. And this goes 9 out of their 10-minute time limit. So it gets real close, and you hear the ring go, oh, there's only a minute left, and it's in that final minute that Robert Roode beats Jinder Mahal.
I just want to have a semi-hot take.
Go ahead.
Robert Roode has the best spine buster in wrestling.
I would agree with that, seeing how, A, not many other people use the spine buster right now, and B, what an homage it is to our general manager, our commissioner, if you will, Arn Anderson, who had the best spine buster of all time. I like Triple H's too, but Robert Roode, it's just so clean. And that's why I made that his finisher. Because it's too nice. It's too nice not to be. Then we move on straight into another match, and there are only 6 on this show. So we move there. We get a little talk. He says, well, we're going to go right back into the action. It is Shorty G versus Man Scout Jake Manning. And Shorty G once again coming out with his medals and wearing this time he's wearing like a football jersey and he's got basketball shorts on. And he's like still parading around like he's the best at every sport that he's possibly in, because he's just...
Boo this man.
He is the athletic god. Yes. And Man Scout comes in looking like a man scout. And this lasts 5 minutes, if that.
A man scout, but not a scout man?
No, not a scoutman. So Shorty G, I mean, right off the jump, Shorty G just lays it into Man Scout Jake Manning. Man Scout, he gets like a flurry, but really this is all Shorty G. He just totally takes the fight to him. And finally, Shorty G hits that variated angle slam onto Man Scout Manning. 1, 2, 3, that's your lot. Real simple stuff. And then Shorty G gets the mic. And Shorty G's like, you know, I'm really getting tired of this place. Because I've proven, as you can see here from all of my medals and all of my awards and championships, that I am the best at every single sport known to man. And I'm fighting a goddamn grown-ass man in a Boy Scout uniform. Does nobody give a damn that I am the best, most athletically gifted man on this show? I want actual competition, and it's very clear to me that there is no competition here like that. So if somebody, maybe Arn Anderson, wants to give me some competition, that'd be really appreciated. Otherwise, I'm taking my talents elsewhere. And so Shorty G goes to walk out, and Arn Anderson is in the back. And you know, this is going back. We go back to Taz and Matt Striker, who kind of talk a little bit about Shorty G being such a prick. And then, we're getting word that Arn Anderson has something to say in the back. We've got Tony Schiavone back there to talk to him in the back. So Tony Schiavone goes, okay, Arn, cut to Tony, cut to Arn Anderson, and Tony goes, oh, well, Arn, you obviously heard what Shorty G said. I hear that you have a response. And Arn Anderson goes, yes, well, I've been thinking about what Shorty G says, and if Mr. Gable wants to prove himself, I don't know why he calls himself Shorty G, like he's some sort of gangster. And hearing Arn Anderson say Shorty G acting like some sort of gangster would be enough for me to make me watch the rest of this program. And so Arn Anderson says, if he wants to fight somebody, I've got a great idea. There was a man who got a very well-earned win earlier tonight, happens to be undefeated. So how about next week at our Harvest Havoc live event, we're going to have Shorty G take on Robert Roode. I am signing that match. Officially, we're going to see that. And Arn Anderson gets cut off because he sees from the side, oh, God, in comes Santina Marella. And Santina, and Santina's like, oh, Mr. Andersoni, you did not make me a match, and I am a female, and you see, you respect me in the respect of the pronouns. I want to wrestle a female. And Arn's like, Santino, you gotta stop this, man. It's like, this is actually insulting. You are actually being insulting. It's like not even to me, but this is just like, it's getting offensive. He says, you are offending me because I am a female and you need to respect me, the female. And I'm like, Santina, this has got to stop, okay? I'm not letting you face female wrestlers. It's not going to happen. And Santina goes, I'm going to prove it to you, Mr. Andersoni. Sooner or later, I'm going to be there next week. I'm going to get a match whether you like it or not. And he walks away, and Arn Anderson's got his head in his hands like that Captain Picard meme. He's just got his head in his hands, and he's like, I need a drink. And he walks off, and Shivani's like, okay, Taz and Matt, we're going to go back to you.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you're mocking me for my street talk. Accent.
Yeah, but that's Santina's whole thing, though. And I just made up on the spot, Mr. Andersoni. So who knows what's going to happen with Santina? Apparently, they are going to be there at Harvest Havoc. Lord knows what's going to happen with they. And so moving right along, we go back to the ring as Matt Striker and Taz are just like, I don't know what happened here. What is this? And Taz is like, hell if I know. Let's just go back to the ring. So we're gonna go back to being somewhat serious here. We've got the tag team champions in action. FTR versus Mike Rowe and Carl Hansen or Carl Rowe and Mike Hansen. I've already forget. They've ruined their reputation for me. I don't even care about their first names at this point. The Viking turkey leg eating cinematic movie bowling ball to the nads doing.
By the way, did you know that they were in Raw Underground fighting in Shane McMahon's Underground Fight Club?
No, I did not. Because I do not care.
At the Underground Fight Club, and they were fighting Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, I bet. With turkey legs, I'm sure. So FTR...
Yeah, there were turkey legs celebrating.
I'm sure... Lord save me. We're really watching SummerSlam. We're really watching SummerSlam. Okay.
Hopefully they don't show up.
So FTR is facing Carl Rowe and Mike Hansen. Jim Cornette is there. This goes 8 minutes, but it's really mostly FTR because they are the tag champs. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Arn Anderson set up a little bit of a tournament last week where the Hardys and the Briscoes fought each other, and then the winner of that had to face the winners of the Outlaw Inc. and Claudio Castagnoli's Sheamus match, which Outlaw Inc. won and the Hardys won. And that's coming up a little bit. But this is FTR, they're the tag champs. They wanted to, keep themselves sharp, prove they are still the best tag team in all of ACPW. This one's fairly straightforward. Hansen and Rose start to make a comeback, but when Hansen goes to hit that handspring elbow, as he's upside down doing the handspring, Jim Cornette just pulls on Hansen's head, and he just flops straight down. And the referee, who is obviously just saw that, goes over to Jim, and Jim starts messing with him. And as Rowe was starting to make the comeback, he goes to check on Hansen, but that's not enough in time. FTR hits their Shatter Express. 1, 2, 3, FTR take this one as the tag team champions should, with a little bit of underhanded tactics to boot.
Damn you, Jim Cornette.
You gotta shake your fist at that man. But I think the visual just would make me laugh of Jim Cornette just grabbing the beard of Hansen and just watching him just flop straight down onto the mat.
Oh, yeah.
Would be very satisfying. So then we go to the Matt Striker and Taz, blah, 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 and it's like, well, we're going to go to JR in the ring with Silas Young. And Silas Young says, I'm the last real man. I said it before, I'll say it again. I had to treat that Travis boy, his last name is Man, but he's anything but. I had to teach him a lesson. And that man thought it was okay to come and attack me during my promo last week. Well, this week, that's not going to happen because I have good suspicion that Trevor Mann is in the next match. But he never calls him Trevor Mann, he calls him the Trevor Boy. Because I'm the only man here. And next week, I hear that I'm getting another match with Trevor Mann, Trevor Boy. And I'm going to whip some sense into that boy, whether he likes it or not. And then I'm going to go after the World Championship, because that's the ultimate prize, and there is nothing about... So that's why I have a vested interest not only in whipping that boy, but who wins next week. Then Silas Young goes back, JR goes, well, we're going to get a new match. Actually, in fact, that match you just spoke of that Trevor Mann is in is actually happening next. And Silas Young's like, okay, fine, I'll, you know what, I'm going to sit and watch. So Trevor Mann goes up and he gets a chair and he sits himself down, which is not next to the announcers at all because the announcers are elsewhere. Then we have our next match, match number 4. It is Pentagon Jr. with Zelina Vega taking on Trevor Mann. Now, for those of you kids counting at home, This match has happened quite a few times before. Not with these particular names, but if you recall, Trevor Mann used to be on Lucha Underground Prince Puma. And Pentagon and Prince Puma had quite the feud that lasted like the entire season of season 2.
And I'm sure there's no love lost between those two.
Absolutely not. And you also have to remember that Pentagon's first appearance was in the debut show. He lost to a roll-up thanks to a Zelina Vega interference that backfired that gave Heath Slater the win. So he's a little upset. And they had the vignette package last week about how Pentagon is still planning on breaking people's arms and Zelina Vega's there to help. This match, I gave 14 minutes. This is another one that's going to go right up to the time limit, but it's not a draw. So, right as Trevor Mann looks like he's about to hit the 650, Zelina Vega goes to once again run interference and gets up, and the referee, who's distracted with Pentagon like selling his head or something like that, he's checking on Pentagon. Trevor Mann goes up, Zelina Vega pushes him off, and the referee sees that and then does that nice little like that speed bag with the hands and goes, "You're out of here." And Zelina Vega's like, "Oh no, why are you kicking me out here? I should be here." And he's like, "Nah, you out of here." And so,
are you trying to do a Brooklyn accent now?
no, I just did that just to ham up the moment. But so Zelina Vega leaves, but the damage was done, right? Trevor Mann is crashed and burned. Pentagon brings him back into the ring, is about to hit that package pile driver, when Zelina Vega pops back out, just ever so slightly.
What is she doing back here?
She's like, and the referee like goes to see her, and just as she does that, Trevor Mann actually, as he's up in the package pile driver, uses his legs to kind of sandwich Pentagon's head. It's a roll through. He rolls him, gets Pentagon on his back while in this package pile driver position, hooks both legs, 1, 2, 3, and a rapid stolen victory again befalls Pentagon Jr. at the expense of Zelina Vega.
That's twice now. That's twice now that she's interfered, and it's cost him.
And Trevor Mann obviously sees Silas Young, and Silas Young just kind of shakes his head because he's like, that was a crap finish. He's like, that wasn't how do you feel good about that win? But Silas Young's right there. But Trevor Mann takes the microphone as JR gets into the ring, and JR is about to interview Trevor Mann, and Pentagon has left, and he's very frustrated, and he's talking with Zelina, and they kind of walk out, and JR goes, "Trevor, good victory there, and obviously your opponent is sitting right there, who just watched that match," and at this point Silas Young is like, "I'm not giving this guy the light of day," and is actually walking out to the back. And Trevor Mann says, "I want to talk about two things. First, Silas, I see you over there. You might not think I'm a man, but I'm capable of things that you only dream of. And next week at Harvest Havoc, I'm going to show you a little bit more about what I'm about. I didn't get the chance to because I didn't have my head in the game. But now, all I'm focused on is whipping the last real man's ass until he becomes the boy with the tail between his legs. But I also want to mention something else. Because I was actually really disappointed tonight in what happened to Pentagon. I used to respect Pentagon Jr., but all of a sudden, he's lost his focus, kind of like I did a couple weeks ago. And I don't know why, and I don't know where, but something's happened to Pentagon where he's just lost that killer instinct. And if he wants to stay here in ACPW, he better think up of something, because by rights, I got lucky tonight, and I shouldn't have. So Pentagon, I don't know what's going on with you, man, but I used to respect you, and I want to respect you more. And I'm a little sad, I'm a little ashamed, but that doesn't stop me from achieving what I got to achieve. Now, can you dig that, JR? JR is like, don't be Booker T. And he doesn't, they don't actually, obviously they don't actually say that. It's like, JR is like, okay, well, thank you, Trevor, and we'll keep you posted. And then, of course, it is once again, Matt Striker and Taz say, just to clarify that the matchup next week is going to be Trevor Mann versus Silas Young one more time.
I'm looking forward to that matchup. That sounds like it's going to be a great matchup between speed versus power.
And considering that the first match they had ended with Silas Young disqualifying himself after throwing Trevor Mann over the top rope, Trevor Mann has not lost, technically. So it's...
That may be true, but we'll see if Trevor Mann is going to stay undefeated.
That's right. Well, we will find out next week. And now JR is still in the ring. You know, we obviously go to Master Dragon and Taz. He goes, well, we're actually going back down to JR. We're going to have another interview. And JR is like, well, ladies and gentlemen, my guests at this time, and before he's even able to announce them, out comes Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and Britt Baker. All of them come out. Big Wrestling's Finest comes out. And they're all looking swag, you know, they're walking down the ring. Of course, Adam Cole's holding Britt Baker's hand because they're a couple. Isn't that cute, guys? This isn't Michael Cole, this is not mentioned. But of course, Adam Cole and Britt Baker are a thing, and there's been some interest of late between the way that Cole is. Well, we'll get to that. JR goes, well, your match last week with DIY ended in a draw. And I've heard from Arn Anderson that next week you will be getting that rematch. Will DIY against you, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly, especially after when the match was over, you wailed on them with steel chairs. So, first of all, how can you possibly condone and explain your actions last week? And Bobby Fish takes the mic and goes, JR, do yourself a favor. What I said, Bobby Fish takes the mic. Goes, JR, do yourself a favor and leave the ring. This is wrestling's finest business, and I don't want to see you get hurt. And before JR is even able to move, Kyle O'Reilly kind of pushes JR, and like JR's like, oh snap, and Cole's like, you could tell that Britt's uneasy. Britt's like kind of gripping Cole, like why are they doing this? He goes, listen, Adam, we've been thinking about this. Past couple of weeks, well, I know we all agreed here to come in and do the right thing, and we're going to be this thing, but I've seen a change in attitude with you, and I think it has to do with that bimbo behind you.
Oh, you don't say that.
Because here's the deal, right? We are the finest wrestling has to offer, whether anybody likes it or not. We've never been afraid to do what we want to do. We've never been afraid to bend the rules to fit our narrative. But all of a sudden, you have got this influence in the back of your ear saying, you've got to be the good guy. You've got to be a nice man. You've got to stand up for the kids. Well, we don't give a damn about the kids. You know what we care about? Tag team championships. We care about being the best. And you shaking Gargano's hand? Since when are you such a turncoat? We may have worn yellow and black, but the only yellow you've got on you now is in your goddamn belly. And what do you have to say about that, Cole? Because we're getting a little sick of this. Cole takes the mic and goes, listen, guys, I understand that things aren't the way they used to be, right? I understand that back in the day, we used to run roughshod over everybody. But we were scoundrels back then. We were kids. We were young. We didn't care what it took. But don't you guys want to have some sort of legacy left behind you? Don't you guys want to feel like at the end of the day, when you retire and I retire, we can retire with our heads held high? Where we could leave this business better than we found it? Or are you guys so caught up in your own hype that you are so self-centered about this? This isn't what Wrestling's Finest is about. Wrestling's Finest was about proving to everybody that we can wrestle circles around everyone without cutting corners. And Britt has nothing to do with that. So before you call her names, you better look into my eyes and tell me to my face that I isn't the best in the very top tier of ACPW. Now, I love you both, and there's no need for us to fight. You've got a match next week, and I want to see you kick Ciampa and Gargano's ass like you did last week, but I don't want to see you take the corners cut. I want to see you be the wrestlers that I know you two are. And Kyle O'Reilly takes the mic and goes, okay, look, there's no need for us to be divided, right? You guys are both right, okay? We are wrestling's finest. So next week at Harvest Havoc, no more sending each other to the back. None of that. Cole, I want you by our side. Britt, I guess you can come too. But this is not us. We're not going to break up because of stupid stuff like this, okay? I want you to shake hands. I want you to hug because you're brothers. We're all brothers. And a sister, I guess. But we're all brothers. All three of us. All three of us. We ran roughshod over every company we were in from the dawn of time. I'm not letting this get in our way. So hug this out. Be the guys that we know you are. And let's go next week. Take the fight to DIY. And then move our way up to the championship caliber that we all are. So Fish takes his, Fish is obviously upset. He's looking around, and Cole's like, I'm going to do this, right? Because I'm, there's no leader of this group. We're all one unit. We've all been one unit. And Cole goes for a hug, and Bobby Fish kind of looks around, and you can tell that Fish is like, he's very hesitant. He finally goes over, and he hugs Cole, but it's like something super quick. But then Cole's like, now come on, give me a real goddamn hug. Come on, we've got this. And Kyle O'Reilly's like, come on, man, be a man. And so they finally do, and they all pose, but there's still a lot of dirty looks. He hugs Adam Cole. Adam Cole looks to Britt. Britt looks back at him. She's a little nervous. Cole takes the hand of Britt as they're about to leave, but Fish just leaves. He just walks out. He does a hug and just walks out. So there's clearly things are not resolved here. And Kyle O'Reilly goes after Bobby Fish because obviously they're re-dragging and after that. So Kyle O'Reilly trying to mediate, Bobby Fish pissed, Adam Cole trying to defend himself. It is just chaos in wrestling's finest right now.
Lots going to be happening. It's a bunch of moving parts, but I feel like this wrestling finest is all built on a foundation of cards, and that house of cards is going to fall.
Well, it might. We're going to have to see what happens next week as Redragon takes on DIY once again. And then we go to our next match, and Corny's back. Because it is Jeff Cobb versus Heath Slater. And Cornette, he basically just sits back and he takes that chair that's still up from Silas Young because Silas Young's a dick and he didn't put his chair away. And so,
what a heel.
So Jim goes, he just sits on the chair and he goes, Jeff Cobb, you do your thing. It is Jeff Cobb versus Heath Slater. And I think you know where this one's headed.
It's heading for a quick end.
This one lasts not even 5 minutes. Heath barely gets a punch. Jeff Cobb never leaves his feet, just tosses Heath around like a sack of woolly mammoth potatoes. Potatoes that are so rotten they've developed like the eyes and the hairs and all that. And then Jeff Cobb hits the deadlift power slam. 1, 2, 3. Not even a contest. This was not even a contest. Jim comes back into the ring and cuts a promo on Titus O'Neil. He says, Titus, I didn't want to do what we did to you last week, but you have to understand, you got in the way of something you didn't have to be a part of. And Jeff Cobb, he's like an elephant. He stomps around, he reaches around and thwomps everything in sight, but most importantly, he's a man who never forgets. And he will not forget what he suffered at the hands of you, Titus O'Neil, breaking up what was going to be a statement to that little wrestling child Nicholas who wants to so much be a wrestler. You stepped in the way of Jeff Cobb's business, and now Jeff Cobb has to bring the business to you. So why don't you come out here, Titus? Why don't you come out and tell us what you really think? And I promise I'm not going to unleash Jeff Cobb on you tonight. That's going to happen next week. And oh, will that be sweet. Because have you ever seen a bison rip the pants off a drunk woman at a rally? Just wait, because you're going to get twice as much, because those pants aren't going to come off of you. Instead, that bison's going to play with you and toy with you and toss you left and right and up and down. And then, like the tiger, he's going to take your heart and eat it with his mouth. Like the shark who smells blood in the water, he's going to sneak on you and grasp at you and wring you around until there's absolutely nothing left. And he spits you out like the foul garbage you are. So why don't you come out as your last will and testament, get your lawyer and your will ready, and why don't you explain to us what your last rites will be? So Titus comes out. Titus comes out and he says, "What the hell is wrong with you two? You're blaming me because I defended you, a grown man, a jacked man like yourself, Jeff Cobb, about to beat down a child and hospitalize a child, and I'm the bad guy here? No. You, Jim Cornette, are the scum of the earth. And you, Jeff Cobb, are working for the scum of the earth. And I respect your size, but there is nobody. I've learned and made a living of taking bullies to task. And that's what I'm going to do next week, because all you are is a bully and a scrawny little chicken shit. And at the end of the day, I will take you down and defend Nicholas's honor. Because, yes, he's a child who won tag team gold off of whatever, but he's still a child. And I'm not going to let a child suffer at the hands of two people like you, because bullies need to be put in their place." And Corny says, "Well, if you're so confident that you can take the ultimate physical specimen, the Hawaiian lion, in Jeff Cobb, if you think you could take him on so bad, then why don't you bring Nicholas with you next week so he can see how much of a champion you are? And why don't you have him be in your corner?" And Titus O'Neil says, "Fine. Because I'm going to show Nicholas how to stand up to bullies. I'm going to show him how a man who's won a humanitarian award can do so, because it's all about being an upright man. And if somebody doesn't stand up to bullies, then they leave themselves open to being pushed around their entire life. And I'm not going to let that happen." And Jim Cornette just kind of laughs and goes, "We'll see, Titus. We'll see." Pulls Jeff Cobb, and they leave. And that's the segment.
Ooh, good segment, good promos. Exactly what I would expect from the humanitarian dad of Egypt.
Gotta love Titus O'Neil. He's an upstanding individual. He fights for the rights of every man. He is a real American.
Okay, no. Move on to the next one.
Hey, to be fair, I did flip it around, so it's no copyright infringement. And because it's Titus O'Neil, it's okay.
Okay, that's fair.
Moving right along. We get Tony Schiavone in the back with DIY. And Tony goes, "Well, Johnny and Tommaso, I mean, you obviously saw what happened with Wrestling's Finest. You've got a match next week against Redragon. So how do you guys feel going into this?" And they say, "Well, I can't speak for what's going on with Adam Cole, but I will tell you this. I found out that Adam Cole did have an ounce of respect in him, which I didn't expect. When he shook my hand at the end of a great match on the very opening episode of Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling, I found something in him. And I don't know why Bobby Fish and O'Reilly are so mad, because Cole, you've earned my respect for the way that you've handled yourself here in ACPW. But I will not forget the way that we were taken down last week by those steel chairs. And you bet your ass we're going to get even. Whether it's through beating down Redragon, smacking them down and hitting them with chairs, or just by straight up humiliating them in the ring. We are the men who do it themselves, and we will do it ourselves as we take down Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly undisputedly, indiscriminately. It's happening. You better get ready. We're going to get ready, because when it comes to pass, the Last team standing is going to be us. And then it's tag team gold from there. So that gives DIY at least something. They've appeared on the show. They're, just a babyface promo, very, very standard babyface promo, saying they're going to get even for what they did last week, and we're going to have that match on our Harvest Havoc mid-season show.
Looking forward to it.
So, and considering how good it was last week with the great match that ended in a draw, it's going to be even better next week. So then, we go back to Matt Striker and Taz and says, well, we're going to have to, we're going to change things up. We're getting ready for our main event, which is the Hardys versus Outlaw Inc., but something happened this past week. JR had a sit-down interview with Cody that didn't go as planned, let's say. And, instead of us doing, why don't you guys take a look? So we cut to a sit-down interview with Cody and JR says, well, Cody, last week you faced Walter for the number one contendership for the ACPW championship, and of course that ended with a bear hug that caused internal bleeding. First of all, what is your condition? Cody says, well, obviously I'm not 100%, because Walter is a tremendously physical specimen. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I still have his hand welt on my chest. You can't tell because obviously I'm wearing a suit because I'm a very classy individual. But I've still got his handprint on my chest. But that's not going to stop my path. I'm destined. I have a legacy to uphold. The Rhodes legacy is long and vast, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be stopped or deterred because I met somebody who was just happened to be better than me on that night. And I know, JR, as you know, because you've been around my father. You've been around him. You know what my father was like, and I know that I'm going to make him proud, and I'm still going to be the champion I know I am. And then you hear from the back, blah, de blah, de blah, de blah. Why don't you just shut up, Jarrett? Out comes MJF in the middle of this sit-down interview. Goes, Cody, who the hell are you fooling here? Okay? Your father's disgraced of you. Okay? You have this little taboo of like, oh, I can't bring the father into the equation. Well, how about I bring it in, seeing how you were supposed to be my mentor. Remember that? Remember you were supposed to mentor me? But look where you are. Glory hounding again, just like your dad used to do. He used to do that all the time. And you're supposed to honor his memory by being a total jackass? You getting your ass whipped convincingly by a man twice your size, and you're some man of integrity? I don't think so. You're pathetic, Cody. Everything about you's pathetic. All the way up to dyeing your hair blonde to make yourself look like somebody that you couldn't even fill his shoes in. Naming yourself the American Nightmare. You are a nightmare because you're a hot goddamn mess. Unlike me, who's better than you. And you know it. Because I don't have to hide behind a legacy that was never mine to begin with. Because I'm making my own legacy. And it doesn't matter who I'm in the ring with. I've proven it time and again. But Cody, it's just, you're disrespecting yourself. You're disrespecting your entire family. Your little taboo of you can't work this into an angle, fuck that. You're pathetic, Cody. And of course, Cody obviously gets fired up. And without even saying, like, you better take my father's name out of your goddamn mouth before I beat it out of you. And MJF is like, oh, I'm sure you could, but you don't have the skills anymore, Cody. You made that very apparent by how you've conducted yourself here at ACPW. You're nobody. You're nobody. You've always been a nobody. And how does it feel to be the runt of a litter that was always considered the smallest in the pack? And of course, Cody obviously gets up, and of course it comes to blows. And JR's trying to like break it up, but it come to blows. It cut, and the camera, like they run into the camera, and the camera just straight up cuts. And so there's no resolution to this.
My only disappointment is that MJF did not make fun of Cody's ugly neck tattoos.
I think that it went without saying. I think that's a cool of you're embarrassing yourself type of deal. But, there's plenty of time for that.
Embarrassing himself, and then MJF points to the tattoo.
Yeah. So there's obviously the heat is not gone between MJF, and MJF broke Cody's one rule. You don't bring up Dusty.
You get my daddy's name out of your mouth, boy.
Yeah. So this is going to be something. So then we, Toni is back. God bless Toni. He puts up with so much, but he's once again with Arn Anderson. And Toni says, well, Arn, you saw the tape just as well as I did. It's MJF obviously being so insanely disrespectful to Cody. And Arn goes, well, you're right. And that's why next week, the only way to solve these types of things is in the ring. So next week, we're getting Cody and MJF. And I'm going to let them duke it out. In fact, I'm going to let them duke it out in a street fight.
Ooh.
No holds barred. Nothing to stop those two. They need to beat the hell out of each other. There will be blood. And I'm going to enjoy every minute of it, no matter whose side gets the better of it. These two got to settle their differences. And there's only one way to do it when it's that personal. So, and this is landmark because if you've been following along, kiddos, this is the first match with a stipulation I've made.
You don't bring it out very often, but when you do, it's important.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly what I'm going for. And now we move on to our match, our final match, not the main event segment, but our final match. It is the Hardys versus Outlaw Inc. for the #1 contendership for the ACPW Tag Team Championships. And this match is a babyface versus babyface altercation. And before this match starts, Eddie Kingston takes a mic and goes, listen, Matt and Jeff, I respect the hell out of you guys. We both do. But, we're from New York. You guys from North Carolina. You two are tough dudes. You've obviously made a living off doing that. But we're from New York, and we got to show you that New York grit. And we will not stop just because we respect you to get what we need to get. Especially considering those two scrawny little guys, FTR, battered us last week for no reason as we were passing them by during our interview segment. So we're a little annoyed. So this match goes 25 minutes. This is a spectacular match. I mean, it's one of the best matches, save for FTR and the Hardys in week 1. But this match is another great tag team event. And here's the finish. So Outlaw Inc. has gotten the better of the Hardys. The Hardys have made their comeback. And as the Hardys are making their comeback, Jay Briscoe enters through the crowd and tries to get involved. But the referee sees him and cuts him off. And after Matt has made this comeback, and there's a big slam down to Homicide and Eddie Kingston. Matt's exhausted. Jeff is feeble at ringside, but Matt is trying to reach over and grab Jeff and tag Jeff, and right as he's right there, as the referee is still distracted with Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe pulls Jeff out of the ring and off the apron and hits him with those classy brass knucks that they've used in the past few weeks. Jeff's knocked the hell out. Didn't see it. So Matt obviously can't tag, and as Matt goes right there, he's reached over, and as Jeff is down, Matt's head is like right next to the ropes where Jeff would have been, and Mark just turns around, pop, gets him with the brass knucks, and Matt goes down. Now at this time, because Eddie Kingston and Homicide were so exhausted selling what I considered Matt to do like a double twist of fate, so they're both selling, neither of these two saw the Briscoes interfere. So they don't know that heels have just gone and gummed up this match. And that leaves Homicide, who's the legal man, to come in and hit a Gringo Killer on Matt. 1, 2, 3. Outlaw Inc. Know that, they're kind of looking around like, what? I'm not sure what just happened, but we won, so I guess we're going on to face FTR. So it is going to be FTR versus Outlaw Inc. next week. at Harvest Havoc, but it's very hard to blame Outlaw Inc. for taking advantage of something they didn't even know happened.
It's going to be FTR versus Outlaw Inc. thanks to the Briscoes.
And
those damn dirty sons of bees.
Those dirty Briscoes screwing the Hardys out, especially after the Hardys beat the Briscoes last week. The Briscoes, after their contention of, you lost Hardys, you lost your tag match, back of the line with you go, and then them losing to the Hardys, the Briscoes are obviously still pretty pissed at Matt and Jeff. And decided to do what they only could, which was screw the Hardys out of that tag team championship rematch that we would have all loved to see.
Oh yeah.
So then we move on to our main event segment, and this is the two number one contenders for the ACPW Heavyweight Championship going face to face. It is an in-ring interview. They face face to face. I didn't make this a contract signing because contract signings are lame, and they always end up the same way. And this is not what I wanted this to be. So
who are our two contenders?
Our two contenders are Brian Cage and Walter. Two big old boys. So JR first introduces Walter. Walter comes out, makes his standard pose in the corner. JR says, and now welcome Brian Cage, the man who was injected into the tournament thanks to a impromptu attack from Jeff Cobb onto Goldberg. Goldberg, by the way, is still in the hospital from injuries that he sustained at the hands of Jeff Cobb and the deadlift power slam onto the bare concrete. Because
after he was taken to a local medical facility.
This hospital. He was taken to a hospital. None of this blathering words, medical facility. He was taken to a goddamn hospital. And he's still in the hospital. So
good to know. Good to know.
So obviously, he's had several broken ribs. There was a punctured lung. So I don't think Goldberg's coming back anytime soon. He really did a number on Goldberg. But Brian Cage was well able to substitute and beat MJF to get to this spot. And Cage and JR goes, well, I really don't want this to come to blows, gents. So do the best you can. I just want you to I want you to go face to face, talk to each other, keep this clean, keep this sportsmanlike. Because next week is when you guys get to have this opportunity for the richest prize. And at that point, JR brings the belt in and does a big belt reveal. Because who doesn't love a belt reveal?
Everybody does, especially when you use the word belt.
And the belt's super pretty. It's a big old title belt, big gold, not the big gold belt, but a big gold belt. And it's gold. It's not have any silver undertones. It's gold. So it's a gold title belt. With me?
Yep.
So, Brian Cage takes the mic, and for those of you who know Brian Cage, his promo skills have never been great, but he's doing okay. And he goes, Walter, you're a huge dude. I saw what you did to Cody, and I respect what you did to Cody. You are a man, one of the few in the wrestling business who I could say has the same level of physicality, has the same build and structure as I do. I'm a big jacked dude. There's no disputing that you obviously left an impression with that bear hug last week. And I want you to know that I'm not taking you lightly. But I'm going to do what I do best, and that's wrestle. And as I wrestle, I will win, and I will beat you. But I also want you to know that there is a underlying respect, and I will admire and adhere to that respect. And at the end of the night, I hope I can shake your hand as a man who is, I consider my equal. I will shake your hand. But understand that sportsmanship goes out the window when that bell rings. Because I'm not a man. Because when that bell rings, I'm not a man. I'm a machine. Hands the mic over to JR, and JR goes, well, thank you, Brian, and now let's move on to Walter. And Walter takes the mic and just kind of stares at Cage for a minute. He doesn't say anything. He stares at Cage. He kind of feels the room, right? As the room is kind of throwing him some boos. Because, he is the heel. He's not doing anything cheap, but he's doing some booze, and he goes, Bryan, you may respect me, but I don't respect you. I view you as a nuisance. Something in the way of what is mine, and that is gold. I don't care what you look like, what you've done, who you've beaten. I will steamroll you. For better, for worse, you will be broken, you will be beaten, and I will be champion. And then it's just a stare down. It's a stare down again, and JR says, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's obvious the tension is building, they're staring at each other, they're getting closer and closer and closer to each other. And finally, at the very end, Walter just pushes Cage into the corner. And Cage looks, and he's just surprised. And Cage, he's thinking about it, he's about to fight, he's getting ready, he wants to take him down. But the second that he goes to hit Walter leaves the ring. And just walks away. The statement was made. He shoved Brian Cage down. As Brian Cage was getting up, Walter leaves. And JR says, well, this is obviously about as combustible as it gets, but we're going to have to wait until next week to find out who is your very first ACPW heavyweight champion. That's all the time we have tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next week.
Clap, 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 clap. That was a great show, my man.
So, thank you. There was not a whole lot here as far as, it was a lot of just segments. A lot of this was just storyline development, but it had its matches. It had its in-ring stuff. I'd like to think it wasn't too over the top with the interviews, but it's a go-home show. And so, let me read down the card for next week as a chance to get you, the fans, a chance to take this as a draw. In no particular order, we have Cody versus MJF in a street fight. We have the Briscoes taking on the Hardys once again. We have Redragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly with Adam Cole and Britt Baker taking on DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. We have Shorty G versus Robert Roode. We have Silas Young versus Trevor Mann. We have Titus O'Neil with the Child Nicholas versus Jeff Cobb with Jim Cornette. We have the ACPW Tag Team Championships on the line as FTR with Jim Cornette takes on Outlaw Inc., Eddie Kingston, and Homicide. And of course, we have our ACPW Heavyweight Championship match to crown the very first World Champion in Brian Cage versus Walter.
Take my money now. Take it all now.
This is going to be... and Santina's on the show. I hated to add that, but Santina allegedly is going to be on the show. So, it's going to be something, ladies and gentlemen. We have built up for 3 weeks to this mid-season show. And what's going to happen? There's a lot going on. Just in the same way that NWL has got a lot going on building up to that Hart Foundation Cup. It is going to be a podcast you are not going to want to miss on the third Friday of September. Thank you very much, Sky, once again for being a part of these. It was a great show that you did this week, my friend.
I thank you for having me. And I must say that you also had a very good show. But I'm looking forward to the mid-season harvest.
Yes. Harvest Havoc.
This is going to be our best show yet. When we put on 2 of the best cards you ever see.
That's right. We are in for an action-packed episode, but first we got to get through SummerSlam.
How many drinks? 4 or 5?
Yes. So as we bring ourselves...
Say how many drinks? Just yes.
Yes. Just yes. Just yes. So thank you very much for listening this week. It is time for our first commercial break. Sky, once again, thanks for being on the show, and we will see you next week. As for me, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you on the live stream on Saturday. We will be right back.